1979, Dutch broadcaster VPRO, still the coolest TV broadcaster around, aired the program Neon. Neon was an underground television, giving airtime to everybody and everything that usually didn't get airtime. Neon showed punkers playing gigs at filthy bars, activists demanding minimum wage, and a squatter pooping from his balcony because the toilet was removed from his squatted house. Neon was shot on cheap Super 8 cameras. They used shitty sound equipment, and the editors were probably drunk when cutting the footage. Neon was punk. Neon was television anarchy. But when Jules Deelder, presenter of Neon, visited West Berlin for the program, this happened.
Na een kort bezoek aan Stauffenberg, zei de vielen zijn gevallen, dader van de mislukte aanslag op de Führer 20 juli 1944, spoelen wij ons naar Moabit. Waarachter weer een andere muur, Raf en 2 juli worden bereikt.
Jules Deelder got censored on public television when he started to talk about the RAF, the Rote Armee Fraktion, the far-left militant group in Germany. The producers of Neon always delivered the episode just in time to be aired, making it impossible to recut or reshoot certain elements. When broadcaster VPRO saw the part of the Rote Armee Fraktion just before airing, they panicked, afraid that they would make them look pro-terrorism. So just before airing, they bleeped the whole thing out. This was stupid censorship. Act 1. Stupid censorship. Stupid censorship is visible censorship. Stupid censorship is obvious for the audience to see. It is the kind of censorship that we have all have seen. So much that it doesn't even surprise us anymore.
And this is why nobody likes you, because you keep talking. Shut the up! Don't tell me to shut the up! Seriously, every time they come home, all you do is tell her.
I don't give a about anybody in this house.
Okay.
As an audience, you know that swearing is going on, and you can't pretty much understand what the insults are. It is even worse than that. Giving the beginning and the end of a word makes the audience complete it in their head, making them the dirty-minded ones. In the best scenario, stupid censorship only cloaks the wanted word or idea, but it can also backfire and escalate the thing you wanted to be gone. The audience can hear that there is something missing, something that should not be heard, and that makes it extremely mysterious, exciting, and eventually desirable. It can create a Barbra Streisand effect, a negative backlash, whereas something that is tried to be censored gains more attention because of the censorship. This happened last year when in Russia they passed an anti-meme law, making it illegal to make satirical internet images of Russian public figures, including our dear Vladimir Putin. The internet, being the internet, made thousands of new internet images, making fun of Putin. Another interesting stupid censorship is Google Earth, blurring tactical locations like military bases, oil reserves and royal palaces. On Dutch locations it is done with multicolored, multi-angled mosaic, which are sometimes quite beautiful. So the buildings are censored, yes, but for an invading country it's still pretty easy to identify the important places. Just throw a bomb on all the blurred stuff in Google Earth and you're golden. So, stupid censorship. Inefficient, not working, and visible for the public. Smart censorship, on the other hand, we don't see very often. And that's why it's so smart and so scary. Act 2, smart censorship. Yeah, it works. Smart censorship is the censorship that happens behind the scenes, invisible to the audience. It gets smart when things just disappear, where the trace of an event, person or idea is nowhere to be seen, where stuff just never existed. Smart censorship would mean that important locations on Google Earth would not be blurred. They would be photoshopped until the military base would just look like an empty cornfield. And the Royal Palace Noordeinde here in The Hague would just look like another hipster coffee shop or a fancy gallery. Joseph Stalin's censorship, censors were great at this kind of censorship. When a public figure became unwanted, in Stalin's regime, they were not only executed or sent to Siberia, they had to really disappear. Photo editors went through the archives and masterfully altered the images with unwanted persons in it to remove them from the picture, to remove them from history. More recently, last year, we had this kind of hidden censorship on Dutch television. It was just after the MH17 was taken down above the Ukraine, and anti-Russian sentiment was growing very fast. Fueled by anti-Russian propaganda by most of the Dutch news media. The NOS, the Dutch Public News Agency, aired an item about the journalist asking Vladimir Putin what he thought about all the death and sorrow he created.
President Poetin heeft altijd elke betrokkenheid ontkend bij de strijd van de pro-Russische separatisten in Oost-Oekraïne. Als de BBC-verslaggever Poetin daar een vraag over wil stellen, wordt hij zo goed als genegeerd.
Translation: Putin always denied the connection to the fights in eastern Ukraine. When the British journalist asked Putin about this, he was ignored.
Mr. Putin, John Sweeney from the BBC. I'd like to ask you a question about the war, sir. I'm sorry, sir, the killings in the Ukraine, thousands of dead. So, sir, do you regret the killings in the Ukraine?
Right after this, the NOS got back to the studio. No answer for Putin, for the Dutch audience. But in fact, Putin did give an answer.
Do you regret the killings in the Ukraine?
I will answer you.
В чем заключается трагедия, которая там происходит сейчас?
What's the essence of the tragedy that is going on there?
Я считаю, что главная причина в том, что сегодняшние киевские власти не хотят вести политическую.
Putin actually took 2.5 minutes to talk to the journalist, to say that the accusations were wrong, that Ukraine did it, etc., etc. If this was not detected, the NOS censorship would be a piece of smart censorship, cutting some stuff out, making Putin look like an enormous douchebag who doesn't care about victims of war. But because we now know that is what is missing, this became stupid censorship again. Smart censorship leaves no trace of the thing that was censored, like the thing never was there. Smart censorship is not trying to mask some information. Smart censorship is the absence of information. The absence of ideas will question the status quo. If you try to use Google in China, the internet censorship, or as they call it, the Great Firewall of China, doesn't put a big banner on the screen written on it, "This website of Google is blocked and illegal in our beautiful workers' Republic of China." No, on your screen you will just read "page not found."
The Prime Minister will say...
It was wrong. In a long... Act 3, censorship of thought. In a long line of anti-terrorism acts, this happened a month ago in the United Kingdom.
The Prime Minister will say that British society has been passively tolerant for too long, with an "as long as you obey the law, we'll leave you alone" approach. He'll say that his government will confront head-on what he calls the poisonous Islamist extremist ideology, and actively promote values like freedom of worship, democracy, and the rule of law. But there are concerns in civil liberties groups that the proposed new powers will undermine another right, freedom of speech.
The British society has been passively tolerant for too long, with an "as long as you obey the law, we'll leave you alone" approach. Western politics recently are really occupied with narrowing down the spectrum of acceptable ideas. In order to save our democracy and freedom, we are more and more willing to give up the same values. To protect our democracy, we give more power to our leaders. To protect our freedom of speech, we make it illegal for certain people to talk. To protect our freedom of religion, we make it illegal to believe in certain things. The regime of North Korea is really good at censoring the mind. All aspects of life are extremely controlled and monitored. The range of acceptable thoughts extremely small. A lot of ideas just don't exist. Like the idea of the Supreme Commander Kim Jong-un being just a human who needs to poop, or the idea that the communism isn't the best system, or that North Korea isn't heaven on earth. Those ideas just don't exist. But on the other hand, is it for us Westerners not extremely hard to think about better systems than capitalism and democracy? This is the final kind of censorship, the censorship of thought. The novel 1984 by George Orwell introduced us to thought crime, a criminal act of having beliefs, of doubts, that oppose or question the ruling party. In the book, the government attempts to control not only the speech and actions of the citizens, but also the thoughts. This is for me the most scary kind of censorship of the mind, the narrowing down of the mind, the absence of creative, crazy and revolutionary ideas, the illegality of thinking differently. Read it.
Thought crime is death. Thought crime does not entail death. Thought crime is death. I have committed, even before setting pen to paper, the essential crime that contains all others in itself. April the 4th, 1984. Think.
Was it?
Thank you, Hans. 3 questions from the audience. Any questions?
Yeah.
More of like a thing that's what I thought you might find interesting is an example of something that sort of falls between like stupid and smart censorship, but still ends up benefiting the someone you wouldn't expect the government to benefit. In Ireland for years, and I think it still sort of applies, you can't mention a person's name in relation to a crime for which they have not yet been arrested, which means gangsters can't be named in the newspaper, which leads to a situation where like the 6 most famous gangsters in Ireland over the last 2 or 3 decades are called the General, the Viper, the Monk, Mr. Big, and the Taliban. 2 brothers who murder people for money. Also a guy who may or may not exist called the Sadist. It's a bit like Batman after a while.
Yeah, we have the same thing in Holland, but not with the cool name, so...
This is one...
It's the first name and then the first letter of the last name. So it's more boring.
They're also dead now.
Do you have an example of a smart censorship? Something that was censored that would not actually know that was censored?
Well, really smart censorship, I don't know. Then it's really smart censorship, you know? All the censorship I know is... it is automatically stupid censorship because you know about it. So, and I don't really know how far the rabbit hole goes, you know. So, there's a good example, I think.
I have a last question. What about censorability? So, for example, when I start, self-censorship because of surveillance. So,
yeah.
Knowing that my conversations are being watched, I start to censor my opinions. So. Imagine for a second that Edward Snowden was just a made up inside job, that the NSA just wanted to make us feel that we are being watched all the time, while we are not being watched, just in order to self-censorship ourselves. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think it's like the third kind of censorship I described, the censorship of the mind, or it's more like, yeah, just... Yeah, you censor yourself. Sorry, what's the question?
I get you the censorship of the mind, what's happening when you self-censor yourself, right? This is the ultimate censorship, you censor yourself, right?
Yeah, maybe also yeah, the narrowing down of...
How can we escape of that kind of censorship?
Well, it's also the narrowing down of the of your a range of thoughts, you know. But then not somebody external narrows it down, like a government or whatever. but then you narrate it down yourself, self-censorship, because it's more safe for you, or you think that certain thoughts are bad or whatever. So both are, mind censorship, but the reasons are from a different side. They are internal instead of external.
But I don't think there's really a solution then, because if you would feel like you would have to self-censor, then that just sucks for you. Because apparently there's a reason that you are like, in danger or something. So I don't think there would be a solution.
No.
Well, it can also be. What's your opinion about it? Well, yeah, you can.
Is there a solution?
The solution. Well, also self-censorship is also external. It is also external. You know, you don't. I won't make jokes about Prophet Muhammad because otherwise they will kill me or whatever. So the censorship is in myself. So I know, like, I'm not even gonna talk about it or something. But the reasons of why I do it is also external. So I think there are external.
Those reasons are born from fear, probably.
Yeah.
There's the Foucault-Derrida thing. Both of them would say, like, so Derrida would argue that you can never have a fully limited language. So the newspeak in 1984 is impossible. You can't have a language that doesn't allow you to express the idea of political freedom, because free from lice implicitly allows you to think about free from control, which is political freedom of a particular kind. But Foucault would argue every time the system clamps down, people push back. The nature of the clamping involves the pushback. You can't have one without the other. You couldn't have a truly passive audience for state oppression.
But that's just if you know about it.
Okay, let's wrap it up.
Yeah.
We need to move on.
I'm not saying that.
Thank you, Hans Paul.